Hello, good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
Please tell people for silence.
Okay.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Ali.
Hi.
Hi, Nalini.
Very. Hi. Hi, Ali.
Hi.
Hi, Sureka.
Good evening, Ali. Thank you so much, Ali and
Very good
Nalini, for
evening.
this.
Very good evening.
Yes.
Pleasure. We have got 1 more minute to go.
Yes.
Good evening, Ali, Nalini.
Very good evening.
Good
Very
evening.
good evening, Smita.
Good evening.
28 participants are on time, 1 minute before they've all logged in. Fantastic.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, good evening.
That's a landslide victory for you, Ali.
Right.
Hi, Raji.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, Dr. Ali.
Hi,
Yeah.
good evening.
Your name has that magic, Ali.
Yes. Absolutely.
Magnet.
Absolutely.
So who's the host?
Pardon? Host is Puneet.
Puneet.
I don't know.
I don't see Puneet.
Yeah, BACME.
Hmm.
BACME is
Yeah,
there.
back.
It's there, but I don't see him.
Yeah.
So it is 4:30. If we can request him to.
He's there, I
Good
think.
evening, Ali. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Good
Ali.
evening. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah. So
Yes, Puneet, go ahead.
shall we start, Ali?
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Thank you for everyone joining on this evening. Yes.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes. So we'll begin this webinar. Before we begin, we'll just have a small. So let me take this opportunity to introduce Ali. We all know Ali since we also have other common audience than we usually have for Ali's class. We have some doctors, some nurses, and some medical students attending this webinar. I would just like to take an opportunity and introduce Ali. Ali is an academically graduate of IIT Mumbai, and he's a doctorate in behavioral sciences. He has established himself over 4 decades and as an empathetic and effective counselor for the problems relating to the workplace, interpersonal relationships, family, parenting, stress, depression, etc. And by being the chief mentor and director at the Banjara Academy, he has trained thousands of counselors, including me, and for various organizations in Bangalore and many other cities. Has taken the lead in formation of self-help groups for various issues such as single parenting, disability, old age, single women since more than 3 decades. He has been conducting training programs and workshops for most prestigious government and private organizations. So I welcome Ali for this webinar. This is a webinar series where we conduct every month from BACME, and we see the professionals, especially from the healthcare, to get involved and learn counseling. And in this occasion and this uh, context of COVID and a lot of casualties, mortalities, we are struck in this situation and are sometimes finding difficult to actually counsel the patients and the relatives. Hopefully we'll have a very interactive session this evening, and I welcome you, Dr. Ali.
Yes. Thank you very much, Puneet. So let me get going. Dr. Puneet said that I should speak for 45 minutes and then we have question answer for 10 minutes. I'd like to change that a little bit to say you can ask questions anytime. So we'll have this chat box and you can start putting your questions at any time. As and when I get an opportunity, I will keep answering. You know, sometimes questions are directly connected to what I'm saying, so I can include that and I can go ahead with the thing, that sort of thing. So please feel free anytime you have a question, just put it on the chat box, right? Okay. Now, let us talk about something which nobody wants to talk about, which is death. And yet, you know that there are only two things which are inevitable in life. One is income tax, the other is death. And yet, we want to run away from both these things. Now, every person who is alive has to die. It is as simple as that. There is nothing else which is doubtful compared to death. That is the only thing, whether you are a newborn baby, whether you are a young adult, whether you are middle-aged, whether you are old, whether you are 100 years old. Every one of us has to face death. But what happens is, for various reasons, we have been told not to talk about death. You're well aware that when a death takes place, we do not allow children to come anywhere close. We do not allow the children to see the dead body. We don't allow, in fact, we whisk away the children to some other house and we say that, let the child come back here only after the ceremonies are over and the body has been taken away and things of that sort, which I feel is a wrong thing to do. Let us become aware that the earlier we familiarize ourselves with death, the easier it is to handle it. Otherwise, what happens is most of us grow up without having had any first-hand experience or first-hand exposure to death. So throughout our childhood, we are protected. We are asked to keep away from death. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants a child to come anywhere close to the place or see the dead body and all that. In fact, I have dealt with situations where there are children, who are told, when the child says, what happened to Tata? And they say, no, Tata has gone for pilgrimage, he will come back. I think that's a very cruel thing to do to a child, to give him false hopes and things of that sort. And the child keeps on asking, why Tata has still not come back from pilgrimage? Is Tata angry with me? I want to talk to him. Can I not talk to him on phone? Something like that goes on until the child, in all frustration realizes that Tata is never going to come back. If we could help, starting from children, to help them to understand that death is inevitable, and let us, talk about it. The other thing that I've seen among children is that when they come to know about a death taking place, let's say the grandparent dies, or let's say a friend's parent dies, or something of that sort, they get so paranoid. We come across so many cases where the child starts thinking in his mind that what happens if my parent dies? I have only one appa, one amma, or whatever it is. And if it's a child with a single parent, all the more so. So what will happen if my parent dies? Who will look after me? What will happen to me? Some children thankfully voice it out. There are other children who keep it in their heart and they keep feeling miserable. They become clingy with their parents and things of that sort. And then when we grow up, regardless of whether we become a doctor, engineer, lawyer, whatever it is, our personal experience with death has been very negligible. And that is the reason why we find it very uncomfortable. So I come across many people who have to, work with people, with bereavement and things like that, starting, of course, from doctors, nurses, and the medical or hospital staff, going all the way to counselors, social workers, so many other people who have to deal with bereavement of people and things of that sort. We are totally left, sort of inadequate as to how to deal with it. And that is why I'm really happy that Dr. Puneet has organized this particular topic, which I felt that we should give ourselves a little more awareness on as to how to deal with the bereavement and grief and things of that sort. Starting with the fact that people are, you may also be knowing that there are a lot of people who do not know how to face the survivors when a death takes place. There are people who run away from it. I may have a good friend and I'm interacting with that person, I'm meeting, we are going out together, we are enjoying ourselves, we are doing something, and a death takes place in my friend's family, and I don't know what to say. The maximum that I do is that if some ceremony or something is happening, I go there to show my face, stand in one corner with a glum face, just waiting for that ritual to be over so that I can run away from there. Worse than that is those people who come, sit with the bereaved person and say, don't cry. Don't cry, it has happened, no, what can anybody do? It is God's will, no? Don't worry, everything will be all right. What do you mean everything will be all right? Here I faced a major bereavement, I've lost somebody who was so dear to me. And what do you mean by saying that everything will be all right? The second thing is, this is something very, very important I want you to understand, that somewhere or the other, we have been given this, the feeling or this norm has come in of saying, don't cry. Right from children, again, I come back to the same thing. A small child is upset about something and goes to the teacher or the parent or something. The first thing we say is, don't cry. And that carries through. Now, when we meet somebody, who's had a bereavement, a major loss, the person is in shock and the person is just breaking down and crying. The best thing that the person is doing is that the person is shedding tears. Let us use that as the first and the most basic step about dealing with grief. If a person breaks down and starts crying, that is the best thing that can happen. And we as concerned people should encourage the person to cry. After some time, let's say the person is becoming a little, self-conscious and say, no, I don't know why I'm crying so much. I'm sorry, I'm crying or something of that sort. That is where you go and hold his hand and say, it's perfectly okay to cry. Please let the tears flow. Please don't hold back. I am there with you. You don't have to talk. You don't have to do anything. I am there. I'll sit with you quietly. There is nothing to talk or discuss or whatever it is. Please let us, be there together. I am with you. As long as you feel like crying, please go ahead and cry. Shedding of tears is a great catharsis. As the first step when the bereavement, takes place. Anything of that sort. You may be a doctor, you may be a paramedic, you may be a counselor, whatever you are, it doesn't matter. The moment you identify the person who is facing that bereavement, even if the person is not crying, you should tell the person, if you feel like crying, please go ahead, don't hold back your tears. If possible, create a better environment. Let's say in a hospital setup and this person was very, very sick and this and that, and suddenly the doctor has declared that this person has passed away. Now there are obviously other patients, there are attenders, there is the hospital staff, there are people moving around. And this person may find it very uncomfortable to start crying in front of everybody because they will all start staring at him or her. So the best thing one can do is to try and take that person to some quiet corner, some place where there's a little more privacy, and then tell the person, if you feel like crying, please go ahead. Don't hold back your tears. If it is socially acceptable, please sit close to the person, hold the hand, do whatever little gestures, but encourage the person to cry. If the person doesn't cry, the person holds back, the grief gets much, much more longer. Now let us understand how this process goes through. One is, of course, when a death takes place very suddenly. A person has whatever, a heart attack or an accident or whatever it is, and within minutes or within hours, the person is gone. When that happens, people are totally shaken up. They say, just a few hours back, I was talking to him or I was doing this with him. And how can this person suddenly die? That is one aspect which we need to look into. The other possibility is of a person who falls sick. Let's say gets hospitalized, goes through extensive treatment. there are all these, little hopes. Doctors say, yes, we are trying out a new medication. Or doctors say, no, we will do this surgery and that maybe will save the life. Whatever it may be, that's the medical part of it. So what happens is that when we find that a person, somebody very close to us, is going through a major illness, requiring hospitalization, requiring surgery, going through extensive pain, whatever it may be, that is the time when we rise to the occasion, whatever may be our role as doctor, counselor, friend, neighbor, whatever we are to them, we rise to the occasion. We start looking for ways and means. Our adrenaline starts, pumping much faster. We are in that action mode, the fight or flight mode. What else can I do? I will look for anything and everything. I will pray to God. I will go for a pilgrimage. I will do this. I will take a vow that, I will not eat non-veg food for 1 year if my so-and-so survives and gets well. I keep doing all those type of things. If doctors say that there is no cure for this, I will go and check in Ayurveda or homeopathy. Maybe those alternative streams of medicine can find some cure for my person. So the person gets so involved in the action part of it that the person doesn't even have time to absorb the reality that this person is probably going away. In the last moment, there is always some ray of hope. I've come across so many cases where the doctors have totally given up and said there is nothing more for this person. The person has gone into a coma, the person is totally bedridden, the person's organs are failing one by one. But if you ask the near and dear, they don't want to give up. They still want to fight it out. Maybe some miracle will happen, maybe something will happen and this and that, till finally the death takes place. Now the important aspect comes in. When the death takes place, and that particular day, then that week, then that month and that year, what happens generally to the survivor, to the person who loved this person immensely and has now lost that person? As you know, there is no loss which is as great as death. If I lose all my money, there is still some hope that I can earn back some money. If I lose my health, there is still hope that some miracle, some good doctor will do some treatment and I will get healthy. Right down to even if I lose a limb, amputation has taken place, I still have hope that something will happen and I'll be able to get another leg and I will be able to start walking again or something of that sort. Relationship, if I've lost out on a relationship which was very dear to me, there is still a hope that I can either build back that relationship or maybe I can form another new relationship. So remember that all the other losses have that element of hope, that maybe something can be done about it to reverse this tragedy. But death is the only one where there is absolutely no hope. The moment death takes place, there is nothing to show that there can be a reversal of that. So that is the reason why we talk about bereavement and death separately and more strongly as compared to the other losses that we come across, however serious the other losses may be. We are very lucky that one person has done such extensive work on this, what we call as the grieving process. Her name is Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, Kubler-Ross, Kubler-Ross. Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was a medical doctor who used to work primarily with patients suffering from incurable diseases. So she used to be there with the patient, giving whatever solace, palliative care, this, that, whatever she could do. And at the end of it, let's say the patient passes away. She started observing very closely that there is a pattern for the survivors, a pattern of the emotions that the survivors go through. And Having observed that for years and years very closely, she propounded this thing which we call as the grieving process. She said that there are these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps that most people go through, not everybody. Please remember that human behavior does not follow rules. It's not like medical sciences that you take this particular medicine and this will be the outcome of it or something of that sort. Human behavior does not follow strict laws of science or anything of that sort. So while you cannot predict and say everyone will go through it, but a vast majority of the people do go through that grieving process. And that grieving process is, for the first time, Dr. Elizabeth defined it for us. What I have done is, in all my years of studying people who go through bereavement and go through this grieving process, from the Indian culture point of view, please remember that Dr. Elizabeth worked in the Western culture. Their thinking, relationships, and all that are distinctly different from our Indian or Oriental culture. We have certain norms, we have certain beliefs and all that, which are completely different from the Western world. So what I have done over the years is, I have expanded on this grieving process which Dr. Elizabeth has put out. I have expanded it to as many as 15 steps. She has started off with 5, 6 steps. I have expanded that to 15 steps. The reason being that the wider the choice, wider the introspection, and wider the thinking that you can do, the better are the chances that you can select. So it helps you to think wider, that is this also possible? Am I going through that also? Is this also there? So I give a very wide range. That grieving process, I have just now passed it on to Dr. Puneet. He will be sending it to you by email after this program is over. So I'm not going to, read it out in detail or take it as, what teachers say, completing the portion. So we don't have to complete the portion. The portion will come to you in the form of the note which he is going to send you. But I would like to just run through it for you to understand, why and what happens. Perhaps the first thing that happens is shock and numbness. The shock is so deep. When I lose somebody who is so personal to me, who is so close to me, where I think that I can't even live without this person and things of that, when that starts happening, when the inevitability happens, when the doctor declares that this person is dead, it is over, the story is gone, that is when I get this first step, which is shock and numbness. It can last for a few seconds, a few minutes, a few hours, or a few days. Nobody can predict. Then we move on to denial. How can it be? Yesterday he was all right. I spoke to him such and such a time. What is his age? His age is only so much. He is perfectly okay. He didn't have any health complications. How do you say that his heart gave up? He had no history of cardiac issues. How can you say that, this person's cancer spread so bad and it has happened? So many people survive with cancer. Why do you say that this person couldn't survive from this cancer? So there comes a stage where a person starts denying this is not, possible. And that is also one of the reasons I told you right in the beginning, when children are not allowed to see the dead body of their, bereaved person or something of that sort, the denial lasts longer. And the longer the denial lasts, the more extended is the grieving process. The person doesn't come back. The whole idea of a grieving process is to get the person to move on in life, to accept the reality, to realign lifestyle and relationships and whatever it is, and continue. Life still exists. One person is gone, but the other survivors are still alive. We have to complete our process of life cycle. So that is what needs to be looked into. How can I deal with that deep sinking feeling that emerges suddenly upon the passing away of a loved one? The answer is very simple. Do not fight that deep sinking feeling. Accept it. If you are helping somebody else, you sit with that person and say, what's happening? What are you feeling? No, I'm feeling a very deep sinking feeling as though, I'm just drowning in something. Yes, I understand that. It is very understandable. Don't fight it. Let that feeling come. I'm there, no, I'm with you. Just go ahead and feel. When you are feeling that way and you try to fight that feeling, it keeps hitting you more and more. So just accept it. Yes, right now, if I was in a swimming pool or in water somewhere and I feel that I'm going down, what do the experts tell us? Don't fight it. If I'm not a great swimmer and if I start, thrashing my hands and legs, I'll keep going deeper. Let me smoothly go down. If it's a swimming pool, it will be 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, whatever is the depth. When I hit what they say rock bottom, give a kick and you'll start floating all the way up. So you have to allow that sinking feeling to come within you, accept it, suffer because of it, be angry, shout out, do whatever you want till you hit the rock bottom, and then from there you start going up. In fact, that was the next thing that I wanted to tell. Many people go through an outburst. Who said this is there? I'm very angry. You can't do that. Oh, what the hell is this and that? So that's another stage of the grieving process. Then the next possibility is a person feels disorganized. I don't know what to do. I can't believe it. What is to be done? If somebody is asking, what about the funeral process, or should we inform so and so, or should we do this? Sorry, I don't know what to do. I can't think straight. So many a time it so happens when we are going through that very deep shock. We are otherwise very capable people who would, any other situation, we take charge and we say, okay, inform this one, make this arrangement, pay for this thing, do this. The person feels totally, sort of disorganized. Another aspect that may come in is fear. I mentioned to you about children, and it can happen with adults also. This person has died. What about the next person? My mother was only 82, she died. My father is 91. So he will die any moment. No, he's already 91 or something of that sort. Irrational fears. Your father may be in perfectly good health and fit and fine. It doesn't matter whether he's 91 or 41, but right now there's no threat to his life. But these fears start coming in. And another very important thing, I want you to please, give a serious thought to this. We are afraid of our own death. When somebody dies, we do not cry for that person, we cry for ourselves. We become so conscious of our mortality. A very good question has come up. It is said, time heals all wounds. Is it true? Or if the wound is unattended, can it bother in some other form? Yes. If a small blade or knife cuts my hand a little bit, time heals. If I just go and wash my wound, see that no infection comes on it or something of that sort, within no time, the body starts healing itself. The blood clot happens, and then even the blood clot drops off, and there it is, my hand is back to normal. But if the cut is so deep that a vein is cut, can you say time is the best healer? No. That is what applies to bereavement. If I have lost somebody who was not very dear to me, some distant uncle who was very old and who I just knew, because I'm related to him and all that, time heals. I may feel sad for some time, I'll get it. But if we are talking about very close people, there is no way that we can say that, time heals. Then there is this next step of anger. We have this frustration. We want to get out that frustration. I could not save this person. What are the doctors doing? What is happening in this hospital? How can they not take care of this? Or if it is not against doctors, it could be, why couldn't my brother have come immediately and taken him to hospital? Why did he delay for 3 hours? What was he doing? Why did he not arrange for an ambulance or a car? Or if ambulance was not available, he could have taken him in the car and he would have saved his life. Something or the other like that, goes on. Why this person brought them to this hospital? Why couldn't they have gone to some other hospital where the treatment would have been better? So all this anger comes in. Sometimes the anger can also be against God. I prayed to you all the time. I have so much faith in you. How could you do this to me? That is where the anger, comes in. Then we move on to blame. Who is responsible for it? Did the doctors, were they negligent? Well, my brother was negligent in bringing him to this hospital instead of taking him to a bigger hospital. Did the person himself who died neglected his health? If he had just told me that he's feeling chest pain or he's having this, or when I told him to get health checkups done, why couldn't he have done it? So the issue goes on to blame. After that, it could also be guilt or shame. I didn't do sufficiently. Many of us go through that thing. Many doctors also go through it. They're really sensitive and caring people. Somewhere it hits them. Should I have tried that different treatment? Should I have taken care of this? Should I have checked that out? I may not have the guts to admit it to somebody else, but deep down in my heart, I may have that guilt or that shame, feeling of shame that did I do the right thing? And of course, if I'm a lay person, then even more so, that feeling of guilt. So when you come across somebody, please check whether that person is feeling guilty. Some hint, and the moment the person says something like, I should have taken more care. I should have brought my mother here to live with me. She insisted on staying in her hometown. I allowed her to stay there. And because of that, this happened. I should not have sent my child out to the hostel or the school or something of that sort. If I had kept him at home, this would not have happened. So guilt is one of the most debilitating and destructive emotions that we can think of. Whenever you find that guilt is happening, please tackle that more than anything else. It also leads on to some sort of pining and longing. I miss him so much. Life has lost meaning without it. There's nothing that I feel like doing. A simple thing like I used to get up in the morning and have a cup of tea with that person. Now that person is not there. I don't even feel like having my cup of tea. All this pining, longing, all these things happen, which could also lead to bargaining. I'm willing to do anything. God, please send him back. Please do something. Let a miracle happen. Let me know that, this was all a dream and I'm waking up from the dream and the person is still fit and fine and alive and things of that sort. Then slowly the despair or the hopelessness and those sort of things start coming in. No, it is over. It is gone. This person is never going to come back in my life. I am left alone. I am left distressed. I have become lonely. All this despair and hopelessness and all these type of things, which obviously also lead to anxiety about the future. What will happen to me? That's why I said that, we don't cry for the other person who died. We cry for our own selves. So what about my future? How will I survive on that? What will I do about this aspect of my life or whatever, all those type of things. Some people also go into depression. At this point, when the person has gone through these first few steps and it looks as though the recovery is starting, please check out whether the person is showing any signs of depression. I'm not going into the analysis and, how to identify depression and all that. That's a separate topic by itself. And most of the mental health professionals, know very well. They can identify and tell you. But the fact is that just be aware that some people may go in for depression, even a loss of self-esteem, for example, that, I am worthless, I could not save my so-and-so from death, those type of things. Sometimes the person goes into a sort of apathy. I'm getting some background sound. Can you please, I think some people need to mute themselves. Thank you. Apathy. I don't care about the world. I don't care about life. Life has lost its meaning. What's the point in living? Anyway, we have to die one day. So why should I even struggle? Why should I do anything? Why should I build relationships? Why should I try to do that? That sort of a feeling is also quite destructive. And after a person has gone through most of these things, then the acceptance starts coming in. It is inevitable. It is over. It is done with. However sad I am, however, devastated I am, that this is the end of it. and we have to move on to this. I don't think when it comes to somebody very close, 100% acceptance can come in. But if there is 50%, 70%, 90% acceptance, it is good enough. The person then starts moving ahead in life. Now, as I said, many of these steps I have added to the original ones by Dr. Kubler-Ross, because I want each one of you to be aware of the possibilities. I'm not saying that every person who goes through grief goes through all these points. But at the same time, I would like to tell you that the more out of these points that a person goes through, the better is the healing. That is the wonderful part of it. If a person goes through as many of these as possible, the chances of healing are good. That is why, I replied when I say that, when you have that deep sinking feeling, in a way it is good, however miserable it may appear at that time, that deep sinking feeling, but it helps you to bounce back. If you're stuck in denial, for example, no, it can't be, how can it be, and this and that, and you're trying to, live that in that state of mind where you are trying to say that, no, I'm not sad, I'm not distressed because I don't think this can happen or something of that sort, then you will not be able to get down to acceptance and moving on for a very, very long time. I had the case of a counselee who had gone trekking and was not available on phone, and his wife, his young wife had a road accident and she died. And knowing that he has gone away for many days and we don't know when he's going to come back and all that, his in-laws, with whom he was not in very good terms, they went ahead and did the cremation of their daughter and finished off with it. When this man came back, for days, weeks, he was not willing to accept that his wife is dead. He wanted evidence. He wanted proof. He said, where is the dead body? They said, the dead body has been cremated. The ashes have been, flowed into the Sangam and the waters and all that. No, I refuse to believe. Show me photographs. Unfortunately, there were no photographs of that accident or anything happened over there. He was brought to me, I think, more than 6 weeks after the death of his wife. And he sat down and the first thing that he started saying was, do you have any contacts with the police or with some people? Can we investigate and find out? I think my in-laws have kidnapped her and they are trying to fool me with this and something of the sort. I Baba, you've gone to the hospital staff has told you, they've shown you the records, they've issued a death certificate. How can your in-laws do all that? No, I refuse to believe it. Now, I'm more concerned about such people. It takes a very long time for them to get back. He literally lost his job because he was refusing to work. He was refusing to do anything. He lost a lot of relationships, not only his in-laws, but people started avoiding him because wherever he would meet, he would just start talking about the same thing that, no, I don't think she's dead. I think my in-laws are cheating me or something of that sort. This is what I want you to understand. And more so, if you are directly, in that hospital environment, whether as a medical professional or a counselor or whatever, social worker, whatever you may be to the person, if you can set them off as soon as possible into these things. One of the very nice things that have evolved over the years is, as you know, that, we look for organ donation for people who die on the ventilator, who are brain dead, but their organs are still functional. So if the organs can be harvested immediately, then so many lives can be saved. Now, many NGOs and people who are working in this field, they train the counselors to do primarily grief counseling. It is such a tricky thing. I have lost my nearest and dearest, somebody, very close to me. And imagine if a person comes and says, can I take away the, the heart and the eyes and the liver and the kidneys from the dead body of your person within an hour or two of the death having taken place, because you can't delay beyond that. A few hours and that's it. The organs are no longer harvestable. But in many cases, while a person may get very angry and shout at them, many others do come around. Why? because of the way these grief counselors deal with the people. All of us need to understand that, regardless of what is our job profile, all of us need to work on this aspect of, how to deal. And that is the reason why I said that the moment this shock and numbness comes in, shake up that person, get him back into real life, start talking to him. If the person has gone literally dumb and is, staring into space or something, pull the person, make the person sit down, go and make eye contact with the person, hold his hand, give him a glass of water, make him talk, get him from there onto the denial stage. No, how can it be? How can this doctor say that this is the thing? I want to call a specialist. I want to call a more expert and senior doctor. Let him come and see whether the person can still be revived or not. Yes, normally this is the procedure. This is how it goes. Don't try to negate that feeling of saying, don't be silly. The death has already taken place. Now what are you talking about? The person becomes very defensive. Instead of that, if you say, okay, is this the way you're feeling? What would you like to do? Come, I'll show you. I'll show you these, that sort of thing. I remember when a person very closely known to me was battling for life on the ventilator. And then at one point, the doctor said that, no, this person has gone, brain death, and it's just a matter of time before the rest of the body sort of packs up. Now, that person had a daughter who was at a very sensitive age, 12 years old. And she said that, no, I will not allow my daddy to go. And she kept looking at that monitor and pointing out when the monitor was showing that graph going up and down. See, there is life in it. These people were trying to explain. I said, no, please, you just let it be. I moved people out from there. I sat down with this child, held her very close to me. And I said, okay, you saw that a little while back how the graph was. And do you see how that graph is coming down? We'll wait and see how it happens. Because the brain has gone dead, what the doctors say is that the organs take a little bit of time because the person is on ICU, the ventilator. That is the reason why artificially oxygen is being pumped into the heart. This child started saying, don't stop the ventilator. I said, okay, we will not stop the ventilator for some time. Let us see how it goes. And right in front of us, it took about an hour, hour and a half of patience, continuously talking to that child. And the graph started coming down until it became flat. And then I showed it to her. I said, see, this is what has happened. Your daddy is now completely gone. Now there is no movement on the monitors and this and that. Now we have to go ahead with the final rites. We have to ensure that a dignified cremation, this, that, whatever has to be done. Now let's start working on those things. The acceptance came much easier. That same child in the normal course would have been pulled away from there and said that don't be silly. You can't dictate terms. The elders are doing this. Come, take her out somewhere, give her for an ice cream or take her out to the house or something of that sort. The poor child would have suffered for a very, very long time. So these immediate things at the time of death, I think all of us should sort of mentally train ourselves, should practice doing it and see the results for ourselves. How do you deal, for example, with anger, as I said? It's a very common thing. Once in a while, of course, we hear some people making a ruckus in a hospital and becoming violent. Those are extreme cases. But the inbuilt anger is there in almost every case. Somewhere or the other, if I lose somebody, my immediate question is, could not that life have been saved? Did the doctors neglect? Did they do this? Did they do that? Is this particular hospital competent enough? Was this the right choice? Should I have not tried out homeopathy, Ayurveda, or something of that sort? Very good question. Shalini says, is there any age from which we should start talking about death to our kids? From the time the children are, old enough for you to read out bedtime stories and this and that. When we talk about all the nice things, the prince and princess married and lived happily ever after, add one sentence. till they grew very old and they passed away. And then they had their children, the children grew up and this and that. Make it sound like it is a cycle which goes on. You have a crop, a wonderful harvest, and then the harvest ripens and you cut it and take it away, and the new seeds are sown and the new crop starts in. This life and death are a cycle that keeps repeating itself. If you are a religious type of person, you can talk about rebirth. You can say whatever. That, of course, is a personal thing. So many have asked how to start telephonic conversation. Easiest thing that I would do, in fact, just yesterday I spoke to a very young lady who lost her husband, very young husband, who slipped in the bathroom, fell, hit his head, and he passed away within minutes. Can you imagine the shock of this lady? She was just married for a few years. So when I had to talk, a neighbor who was very concerned about her, she, was with her, and then she called me and she said that I'm sitting with this person. Can I talk to her? I said yes. So what we do is, I just spoke to her. I had asked about her name, so I spoke to her by her name. I said, "Hello, so and so. My name is Ali. I just came to know from my friend Rupa that such a thing has happened." Silence. I maintained that silence. Then I said, "I know that there are no words which can express any form of sympathy to you." Again, silence. Right now, I can't even visualize the type of shock that you must be going through. It is unbelievable what has happened to you. Again, silence. You have to carry that silence, maintain that contact, and see at what point what she will respond to. Suddenly, after I had carried out about 8 or 10 such statements, she said, "Why should this have happened to me?" I said, "Yes, this should not have happened to you, but it has happened. I myself can't believe why it should have happened to you. I have no answer for that." Instead of saying, I told people offer platitudes. It was God's will. You can't do anything about it. You have to accept it. I said, no, I myself am shocked why it should have happened to you. Definitely you did not deserve it. Then she said, he was just 31 years old. I said, oh my, just 31. Oof, I can't even, imagine that a person can just pass away at this age. And he was fit and fine. He just went for his bath and this. And I was preparing that breakfast and I was waiting for this. And then this happened. And she let out. And then she started crying and crying and crying. And throughout that process of crying, all I was doing is, Not a word needed to be told. She spoke 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. At the end of it, she said, "Yeah, thank you for listening to me. I'm feeling a little better, but I think I must, go and do this, some ritual or some phone call she had to make or something of that sort. Can I speak to you later? Yes, please feel free whenever you want to talk to me." Then I called up that neighbor, the common friend, and I said, "Just remind her, if she doesn't call me in a day or two, you remind her that Ali was saying that he's waiting for your call. Or better still, if you can sit there and connect me to her and then move out of the place, again, I'll start talking to her. Then I'll tell you how to go about it because she is there physically present. She's her immediate neighbor and things of that sort." When we were young, our parents used to tell that such person went near God. But nowadays, so many people have become atheists, and how to explain to little children, why bring in God into the picture at all? If a person is dead, talk about death. Talk about the cycle of life, as I told you. That a person comes into this world and the person goes away from this world. This is what has happened to so-and-so. If it is a very old person, it is slightly easier because you can say that, there is a lifespan. Some people live up to 80 years, some people up to 90 years. But Tata was only 74 when he passed away, something of that sort. If it is a young person, you emphasize on it that mostly in the life cycle, people live up to 90, 100, but this person was only 42 and this person went away or something. Just keep explaining to the children and encourage them to ask questions. How do we deal with children who have witnessed 2 deaths of grandparents, one from each of his parents' side in a matter of 2 months? You have to give a lot of support. First, children need that physical, warmth. So hold the child, put the child in your lap, squeeze the hands of the child, give a little, kiss on the forehead or this thing, give a hug to the child. Along with that, keep talking about it. Do not run away from the topic. Describe, yes, this Ajit was this. You remember how that day she had made that special, pickle for you, which you enjoyed so much. We still have her pickle left. See, the pickle is still there and Ajit is gone. No, but why should Ajit go away? I have no answers to it. Today's children, don't try to bluff them. When you don't know an answer, tell them I don't have an answer. Where has she gone? What is this thing called heaven and earth? Is there a God that exists? I don't know. But what I do know is that Ajit is gone. I know how miserable you're feeling. I know how close you are. I know how thrilled you used to be when you used to come back from school and go running to Ajit. Now you don't have Ajit to run to. Bring it to the topic instead of running away from the topic. What will be the role of the counselor? See, as I said, don't put a label. Well, a counselor, a neighbor, a relative, a doctor, we are all the same. We are all human beings dealing with somebody who is going through bereavement. What about a child who is very worried as he has witnessed death of his grandfather and also of a young child of 8? So he is very, very scared and confused and worried about the parent's death and also keeps saying that he doesn't want to die. Yes, exactly. This is what I was telling you a little while back, that very often this sort of thing happens. The child develops that fear. But instead of giving platitudes and saying, no, don't worry, nothing will happen, don't cry, don't, no, talk about it. Yes, in the normal case, grandfather was 82 years old or 96 years old or whatever it is. That is the lifespan. That is what happens. People grow old, then they become weaker and this and that. And then the body, cannot survive beyond that. And that's how the death takes place. But what about this child of 8 years? That can happen to anybody. It's like an accident, So many children are playing cricket. One child gets hit with the cricket ball and it becomes so painful. So many children are running around. One child falls down and breaks his leg and has a fracture. Same way, there is a sort of lottery, there is a sort of thing, but it happens only once in a while. So that little fellow, who was 8 years old and who passed away, we feel so sad and so bad about whatever has happened to him. But you see so many children around you. Come, let's go to the park and see how many children are playing there. Just see in the building how many children are there. Let's list out all our friends and all that. And then the last one, when he says he doesn't want to die, reinforce to him that you are not going to die. Nothing will happen to you. That I can reassure you because I know you very well. You are keeping good health. You have no reason, you are not suffering from any illness which could possibly kill you. We live in a protected environment. There is going to be no tsunami or earthquake or anything of that sort. We don't go running on the roads where a vehicle can come and hit you. So since all these precautions are being taken, I want to assure you that you will not die. Yes, you will die when probably you become 100 years old. So death will come, but not like that 8-year-old child, so sad, so tragic that that child died. That is not going to happen to you because of these reasons. Keep giving these logical reasons. How you are protected, how you are keeping good health, how we are taking care of your nutrition, all these type of things one by one. You keep working on that. This is how you keep reassuring children. But at the same time, please do not neglect even the adults. One of the bereavement and grief processes when a person loses a life partner. If a person has lived with a life partner for 30 years, 60 years, whatever it is devastating to lose that person. Many a time they just go quiet and we accept it and we say, it's okay, fine, what to do, and that person was old or whatever it is. No, please do not neglect. Even if that person is not expressing, you make the person talk about it. Make the person talk. I would say even in a hospital environment, you are a doctor, you are a paramedical staff, whatever you are, and a death takes place. When next time the person comes back for whatever reason, for his health care or for a death certificate or whatever it is, make him talk about what happened, how that death took place, what happened, how do you feel about it, how are you coping with that, how after the rituals and when all the relatives went away, how are you feeling about those things and all that. Okay, how to deal with a person who is stuck in denial stage or in any other stage. I told you about that gentleman who was brought to me in that denial stage. We start talking to that person in past tense about the bereaved person. Tell me about your wife. She's like this, she's like that. Gently, I would say, she is such a good cook. Yeah, I can understand that she was a wonderful cook. I start moving from present tense to past tense. That she is so loving and this and that, you can't expect. Yes, you are extremely fortunate that you had a wife who loved you so much for so many years that you were married. It is going to be one of the high points of your life. You said that you were married for 7 years and suddenly she passed away. Those 7 years must have been wonderful. The 7 years that she was with you and she was your life partner. So you go on doing that. In many cases, you can also do things like, looking at the photographs, showing things to people. When some other visitor is coming or somebody else is there, start talking about that person in the past tense. She was so wonderful. She used to do this. She had these good qualities. And as long as she was alive, we used to thoroughly enjoy her company. So every time this person who is stuck in the denial stage or any other stage, it should keep rebounding to the person till the person starts accepting that however good this was, it is past and it is gone. That's how we, move on to that. So with that, we are coming towards the end of the program. If there are no other questions, I think I will request Dr. Puneet to wind up, give some comments, whatever he'd like
Yes,
to
Ali.
say.
I shared the PDF of the write-up which I have shared with me,
Right.
and I'll be sending them through email also. I request Nalini to give a vote of thanks and the conclusion remarks.
Yes, I don't know how to give, like formal vote of thanks and things like that. But, like I'm my original self. Thank you, Ali. Like, like I think, like whatever you are speaking, like I am one of the persons who went through all these things. Ali was there with me, like, like each moment of my husband's death, untimely death, and, sudden kind of death. And he happens to be one of his best friends. And I remember how he was there, like all the days, and, when his body was taken to for donation, and, like harvesting his brain, things like that. He was along with him. And even after that, when, like I was at home also, he used to call me, talk to me, like, like literally made me what I am today. Like, like I'm the actual witness to that. And I was going through all that, Ali, like whatever you are speaking, I was living that, like thank you for, like, like empowering all of us, like uh, making, like people like us who are very raw and we don't know what to do. Otherwise, like I would have just spent time with my, like grandchildren and not knowing what to do. Right now, like I'm in a position where I have to find time to, like, like uh, think time for like, doing things. May your tribe increase, Ali. Like, thank you so much. And, keep the wonderful work going on, Ali. Like, like from bottom of my heart, I just thank you so much. Not only toward from BACME, from all the counselors who are here, sitting here,
Yeah.
who have been benefited,
Yes.
whatever we were, wherever we have gone ahead in life. And, we are
Yes.
still going ahead and, we are finding actual meaning in life, reaching out to others. Thank you so much, Ali.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much for being so helpful to BACME. When we wanted to start also, you are the one who gave us structure, who gave us, what we can do, how we can handle and things like that. Thank you very much. Yes. And I thank all the other doctors and other medical fraternity. I don't know many of you, but few of you I do not know. But thank you for being there for this webinar and making this a wonderful success. And all I can see a lot of my own students and my friends also here. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Puneet, for actually making that having guts to jump into this
Yes.
journey. Where not many people. I used to try to motivate so many people. Nobody had that guts to do it, and you are doing it, and you are facing it. Thank you. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Not
Thank
only
you.
facing, I'm enjoying Ali's participation, your participation. Thank you all.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you and bye bye.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye, Ali. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you to everyone.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Yes.
Thank
Bye,
you,
Ali.
Dr. Ali. Thank
Thanks.
you,
Bye.
Nalini.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ali.
Thanks a lot.
Puneet.
Thanks a
Dr.
lot.
Puneet.